We can now confirm that Australia has finalised a free trade agreement with Japan. The Prime Minister sealing this deal before he leaves Tokyo early tomorrow morning for the next leg of his North Asia tour to South Korea. Our reporter Brooke Corty is covering the Prime Minister's visit and joins us now from Tokyo. The details, Brooke, we'll get later tonight, but this is, well, the breakthrough the Prime Minister was after.
Yes, and significant breakthroughs, as Sky News understands, on key areas such as beef and dairy. These were always the hard-fought issues, and we understand that these negotiations have gone right down to the wire on these key agricultural exports against Japan, which really has one of the most protected agricultural industries in the world, and a fiercely political lobby group as well. So any major concessions that the Japanese have made on, in particular, beef and dairy will be significant for Australia. We also understand now, David Spears, that the Trade Minister was the one that did the handshake deal, in fact, with the Agricultural Minister from Japan last night, just before, minutes before the Prime Minister, Tony Abbott, had that private one-on-one dinner with Shinzo Abe. So perhaps it was a more relaxed affair at dinner last night than we might have previously thought. But this would be a game changer for the agricultural industry in Australia once we learn these details. But from what we know so far, this will be significant. It will be the first free trade agreement with Japan by a major agricultural exporting nation, and Australia really is in the pole position, therefore, to benefit from the growth in this region, and particularly the demand for our agricultural products across Asia. Andrew Robb, we had a statement from him this afternoon on camera. He's extremely relieved. You can see it in his body language. And he also talked up the benefits to consumers in Australia who will benefit from cheaper Japanese cars as part of this deal, and also cheaper electronics and other goods, consumer goods that come from Japan every day.
So the two areas there, we know the Australian government have been signalling they were willing to give away the 5% tariff on imported Japanese cars, and really that's not much to give away, is it, given the car industry locally is going to be gone in a few years anyway. But the beef one, the beef tariffs at the Japanese end, this has been the big sticking point, hasn't it? Because they are, well, tell us, how high are they? What sort of barriers do Aussie beef exporters face?
Well, on beef, there's a 38.5% tariff which is applied to frozen and fresh beef. The reports have said that Canberra or Australia would have liked to get that below 20%. I spoke with a couple of members of the Japanese media here while in Tokyo, though, and they say really below 20% would be seen an absolute win by Australia, and that would be a loss for the Japanese government. So to see below 20%, I think that would, be definitely a win for Australia. I think to see below 30% is potentially more realistic, but still very difficult. These negotiations have gone on for 7 years, and we've always understood that in particular that has been one of the major sticking points.
Brooke, we know you've been flat out covering the Prime Minister, the other ministers who are there, but there are some 700 business delegates, and I know you won't be missing what they're doing as well. How has day one, the first full day of this this tour, this massive tour, in terms of the size of this delegation, gone for many of them?
Yes, and at one stage, I think in the next couple of days, there'll be a delegation of some 600 Australians to join the Prime Minister. But the last few days, we have seen the real heavy hitters brought out by Tony Abbott here in Japan. James Packer, Kerry Stokes. We've seen the bosses of BHP and Rio, of Santos and Woodside. Today, it was Mike Smith from Asia in the room. James Packer again in the room for a special business lunch. But really, they are an important, I suppose, framework for this trip to Asia that Tony Abbott is doing. Really, as Tony Abbott has said himself in the past, the governments can make these free trade deals, but it's up to businesses, once that door is open, to walk through those deals. These are commercial agreements after all in the very end, and that's what Andrew Mackenzie, the BHP CEO, was reminding me yesterday when I spoke with him. And that's why they feel it's so important to be here, supporting the Prime Minister and showing that they too are very interested in deeper and stronger relations with Japan and, of course, our other trading nations as we move through to Korea tomorrow and into China at the end of the week.